Today is Tuesday, November the 13th, 2018. Hello, and welcome to the New Moon Monthly Report. This report covers the third quarter of the new moon that occurred on November the 7th, and it covers the period of November the 23rd through the 29th, 2018. So that's starting just after Thanksgiving, the Friday after, leading until the last quarter moon in the afternoon of Thursday, the 29th. And before we get started, I just want to let folks know that I am a practicing astrologer, and if you are interested in getting a reading from me, please contact me at mobilestar7@yahoo.com or through my weblog or my website, and I will leave the links on the description. And I've got a special this month of November, introducing 1-hour consultations for $35 by phone. We can discuss your natal chart or your transits, or I can do a long-distance Reiki healing or a guided meditation. I'm broadcasting a bit more this month in the hopes of attracting more interest. And if you've noticed, since the last report, the moon aspects are a bit more detailed, and I'm interested to know what folks think about that. Maybe folks prefer the shorter descriptions. Not really sure what's most useful for you guys out there. So please send me some comments or write me an email and let me know. So this is the third part in the monthly report, which is still in the experimental stages. And this week looks to be a pretty big week in politics. We're going to have the Sun, Jupiter, and Mercury all in the same spot, and that's going to start a fire around 3 degrees of Sagittarius from November 25th through the 27th. These 3 days should be really big days for major political events, starting with Sun conjunct Jupiter on the 25th, and then Mercury, while retrograde, squaring Mars the next day. And on the 27th, Sun conjunct Mercury, Mercury conjunct Jupiter, as well as Mars sextile Saturn. So that's a really big day. So I have my sights set on this week as being the big week for major political events. And here's the summary for the third quarter, which I'll leave in the description. But just for now, to mention that there's not going to be any long moon void of course periods this quarter. The challenges today. It's going to be in opposition to Jupiter and to Mercury, square to Mars, all of that this morning, and then later on in the day, square to Neptune. So I'll go through these moon aspects a little bit more briefly, and then if you want to get the full report, you can check it out on my weblog, and you can read it there. I think it might be more helpful. Generally speaking, our emotions expand when the moon opposes Jupiter. Sometimes a bit too much. We're very spontaneous and a bit restless. And we tend to avoid responsibility because that feels too much like Saturn. As well, we tend to be more extravagant, a bit louder, and in this particular case, probably spend too much. I realize that this is the biggest shopping day of the year, and that this particular aspect is actually very early in the morning, in the wee hours of the morning. More like the middle of the night. But nonetheless, with these oppositions from the moon in Gemini, that's something to think about today, the biggest spending day of the year, because transactions is ruled by Mercury and Gemini. So that's just going to make all of that a lot more hectic and just more difficult. And as I say, with the opposition to Jupiter, you've got poor financial judgment, so you may spend more than you expected. It's hard to stay within your budget, especially with Sagittarius. And then still in the morning, very early, we got the moon square Mars, and that one is a time of poor digestion, so you want to be careful to eat slowly on Friday morning. And whenever you got the moon and the Mars together, emotional satisfaction comes from doing things your own way, and that sometimes means that emotional bonds are a likely target of your aggression. Just realize that, and you can avoid confrontations. And also, this one's a little accident prone, so be careful. Avoid sharp objects. Just be careful with those things. And then we're going to have the moon opposition Mercury. Now this one is going to be right around midday, probably in the middle of the shopping that everyone's going to be doing. And here you've got Mercury, the ruler of Gemini, which is currently retrograde, opposing the moon in Gemini. So you can just imagine what will happen there. mental confusion, signals get crossed, mechanical breakdowns. So you might want to stay off the road or just avoid doing a lot of stuff between 11 and 2 p.m. on Friday the 23rd, because it's just really not a good time to make purchases, and you may be unhappy with the ones that you buy, kind of want to take them back, or maybe you spent too much. It's just not really a good setup for making purchases. And emotional bonds are treated like transactions, and they get categorized and stereotyped, usually in the negative. So you want to avoid making any decisions or judgment about others under this influence. And then later in the day, the moon continues to get a bit of a beating in Gemini with a square to Neptune. So now we're very sensitive and absorb the energy of others, feel kind of vulnerable. So you might want to withdraw, go into your sanctuary. And the crisis is to become aware of things that are not seen. And sometimes that is really hard to do in a very conscious state. You have to kind of close your eyes and go into meditation and reflection. And that's when you become aware of the things that you weren't. And it helps to develop a better connection to spirit. I find that meditation is very good at these times, very fruitful. Okay, moving along to Saturday, the 24th. We start in the afternoon with the moon trine Venus. Able to communicate your feelings well. It's a good time for exchanges between people. If you want to discuss something in your relationship with someone, now is a really good time in the afternoon at 5 o'clock on Saturday the 24th. It's also a good time for social endeavors. Just a real social kind of an aspect. And then Neptune goes stationary direct at 13 degrees of Pisces. Continues direct until June of next year, and in the shadow degrees until March of next year. So heads up, it's the last pass for anyone who's got Neptune transits for natal planets between 13 degrees 42 minutes and 15 degrees 56 minutes. I know I do. I'm going to be getting my last pass of Neptune trine Neptune. So that's been a really good transit for me. With Neptune transits, the cloud stops and moves forward. For me, observing Neptune is like watching clouds, only you never know how you feel about them until they've passed and you can reflect on it. And that's the way it is for Neptune transits in your life. You never quite know what you were going through until a couple of months later you can kind of look back and say, wow, that's what it was all about. Okay, so later in the evening, the very spontaneous moon sextile Uranus. It's a very liberating aspect. Moods change quickly. Kind of helps us out of any stagnant situation that we're in. We're looking for changes in the home. As well, this one, it's really good for teaching because we appreciate others more. And a lot of psychic abilities tend to come with the Uranus aspects. Focusing your creative energy on a specific task or talent can yield great results during this time. And then we've got a short void, of course, until the moon enters Cancer. So we're more passive, sensitive, and in need of nurturing for the next couple of days. More loving and sentimental. Good time to spend at home where you feel comfortable and where you can devote time to your emotional bonds. Sometimes you want to crawl into your shell so you can let your guard down. Emotions are more important now than your intellect for everyone, and because we're all more vulnerable now, you want to be gentle with yourself and others. We tend to eat more during moon in Cancer as well. Hard to stick to your diet. Okay, moving along to Sunday, November the 25th. To be the first of 3 big days in a row. We'll start in the morning with the moon trine Mars. A time of good physical health and emotional fortitude. Emotional benefits come from being in charge of your own direction. Anytime we have the moon and Mars together, you really need to kind of direct yourself. And that's why the ego sometimes gets out of hand. But with the trine, it really just looks good. It looks like you're just doing what you should. Able to take the initiative in a positive way. And it's Cancer to Pisces. So with Mars and Pisces now, you're really going to want to share your feelings at these Mars transits. The ability to express humanitarian qualities. And then later on in the morning, we're going to have the much quieter Moon opposition Saturn, a time of emotional restriction, oppression, insecurities seem to hold us back at these times. So you want to take nothing seriously now. Avoid falling into depression, stay in the present moment, and don't worry about the future, and eat a warm meal. It's always helpful to do that during the Saturn-Moon connections. And then later in the evening, Moon trine Jupiter. Very sensitive and considerate, desire to share your feelings. And again, it's Cancer to Pisces, activities that enable you to share your feelings with others and express those humanitarian qualities. And then at the end of the day, we're getting Sun conjunct Jupiter, but this is going to certainly be in effect the whole day. At least starting at noon, we're going to be feeling it pretty strong. And in fact, it'll carry over into tomorrow morning a bit. So it'll be the Sun conjunct Jupiter at 3 degrees of Sagittarius. And if you'd like, you can see my recent video about Jupiter and Sagittarius. I mentioned this aspect because this is the grand entrance. This is the time when Jupiter makes its grand entrance in Sagittarius and starts its whole new 12-year cycle. Not just simply Jupiter entering any old sign, but Sagittarius. So whenever Jupiter enters a sign, you always want to wait for the Sun conjunction to see what the qualities of that's going to be. But now it's not just any sign, it's Sagittarius. So it's very significant. I'm saying that today the Archer returns. Predictably, the grand entrance of Jupiter in Sagittarius. So we anticipate a big event, something to mark the occasion, very inspirational, a desire to move beyond your current boundary and explore new territory, expand your horizons. Now, the negative side of Jupiter can manifest today with this as pompous self-righteousness. So for sure there's going to be some of that. But it is very optimistic and very positive. So overall, it should be very, very good. Especially now that Jupiter is in its ruling sign. We're hoping for a return for a more upright, moral, and principled behavior. Not just for ourselves, but for all of society. And that's why we're looking for a big event today, some sort of judicial action. Possibly something to help bring down the deep state. But overall, we should be in an optimistic mood, and inspired by the noble principle that no good talent should ever go to waste. So that's why everyone wants to express their creative energy. And I would say a good idea for everyone maybe to mark the occasion. Be aware of it. After all, each of us is beginning a new cycle of growth as well. So it's a good day for setting goals for the future. You can really connect the dots and see long range. It'll be very enlightening, more connected to cosmic forces. Kind of know your soul journey, or get in touch with that and become more aware of it. Possibly even have a religious experience. And lately I've been recalling the past Jupiter cycles, kind of putting a name on each one of them, and trying to recall the types of experience I had during each one of those cycles. And I'm thinking that this cycle is going to be very different from the past. This time the central theme will be a surprising growth experience that incorporates an elevated awareness and very evolved awareness of the past, both good and bad. And that's all coming from the Uranus quincunx at the time that Jupiter entered Sagittarius, as well as the continuing Uranus energies happening around now. And we can really rise above missteps, forgive our past mistakes, and make profound adjustments. Sagittarius is a mutable sign, so it's all about making adjustments to the outer world. And we do that as we embark on this new cycle of growth. So let's see what big event happens today to mark the occasion. The political impacts could be just as significant as when we had Sun conjunct Saturn on December the 21st, 2017. That was the day that Trump signed the executive order to start to go after the deep state. And that was an extremely significant event. It's one that we've basically all been living by ever since then, because it's been nothing but a fight between Trump and the deep state ever since then. So we may see a big announcement or judicial action or maybe another executive order to mark the occasion. At this point, the midterms did not help the Democrats the way they wanted. It was like a false bowl of fruit. It's going to turn out to be rotten because they can't do anything in the House, even though they control it now. It's really the Senate, and it's still controlled by the Republicans. So with Jeff Sessions now gone, and this new Attorney General, Whitaker, he's going to move forward with the indictments. And everyone's been expecting that. And that's a judicial action. And we had Whitaker come in right at the Uranus quincunx Jupiter on November the 7th. That was the precise adjustment. So it seems like everything is a perfect setup at this point, astrologically, for a big event right around this time. And then it's just the first of 3 days. So you expect a lot of upheaval to have a lot of aspects to go along with it. And this does not disappoint, because shortly after midnight on the 26th, we'll be having Mercury, while retrograde, squaring Mars. So that'll be Mercury at 6 degrees of Sagittarius, squaring Mars at 6 degrees of Pisces. Now, it's somewhat like the Mars squared Jupiter earlier in the week because it's in the same signs. It will also encourage us to go beyond our normal limits and inspire religious fervor. But it's going to be quite a bit different beyond that. It makes for impulsive decisions that you may later regret, especially with Mercury retrograde. Because that's exactly what you don't want to do during this time, and the square to Mars is going to really tempt us to do that. Strong impulse to gain new information, because Mercury needs to gain new information now, especially retrograde. It's looking for that. So you really want to expand your horizons, looking for new sources, possibly confronting the sources of information you've gotten in the past, seeing that they're false. Aspect moves you to confront things that are wrong or against your principles. You may become aware of things that you've believed in the past, and suddenly you realize they're not, and you lash out against them. You declare your independence from those ideas. And that's what Mars in Pisces is trying to do now. It's trying to dissolve, and declaring your own independence from other people's ideas so you can establish your own is something that people will really want to do now. But the problem is Mercury in Sagittarius is missing details, and this could cause errors in your perception. So you don't want to be too impulsive. Be careful pointing out other people's mistakes, and be sure of the validity of your own position before you defend it. It can bring up some confusion. Strange impulses come from absorbing the energy of those around you. It's kind of strange. You sometimes get motivated and you don't know why, or what's motivating you to feel or think a certain way. It's because your thoughts are actually getting mixed with those of the people around you. You feel tuned into those subtle influences, and for some it could produce a spiritual experience, because you're in these signs. It's so expansive. The whole idea is to help you overcome the limitations to your thinking, but in the process you have to confront what your limitations are, and that can be difficult to do. So you want to avoid drugs and intoxicants. A very good aspect for dancing and drumming or any physical activity that allows you to focus inward and thus have the spiritual experience. You need to do that because Mercury is requiring the conscious mind to focus inward. So dancing really does the trick, because you really got to watch what you're doing, become consciously aware of your own body. As well, this aspect makes us accident prone, so be careful with sharp objects. And also a strong driving caution with this one, especially with Mercury retrograde. Aspect is in effect from late Sunday the 25th until the early morning on Monday the 26th. These Mercury aspects tend to last about 12 to 16 hours. And the political impacts could be significant. The second day of 3 days in a row of aspects with political implications. It produces political aggression, self-righteous judgment, judicial battles, all in a moment when Mercury retrograde brings doubt into the picture. With Pisces and Mercury retrograde involved, to me that says someone in the political arena has, well, let's just say, a really bad day. Okay, a really hard day, maybe their last day in politics. And thinking about it, because we know that the mainstream media is ruled by Sagittarius, we've got Mercury retrograde in Sagittarius, so to me that says they're going to defiantly pursue their own agenda without consideration for Pisces, without consideration for others, the feelings of others, the feelings of the collective. So they'll be talking without thinking about how other people feel. And it's going to be rather defiant. So to me, putting this all together with the Sun conjunct Jupiter says that this is a pretty major event, politically speaking. We could see some people basically resigning or get fired, or judicial actions occur now that the media can't really deal with. It could be quite interesting. I'm really excited to see what's going to happen. Now that Uranus has gone back down into Aries, the spiritual warrior emerges again for a few more months. It could get really exciting. And then at the start of the day, in the morning of the 26th, Moon opposition Pluto. Well, just like the square 1 week ago on the 19th, folks are apprehensive, reserved, intense. Social interactions are challenging. It can get pretty tough with the Moon opposition Pluto, especially in the midst of these planetary aspects we're getting. Obsessions with issues, sudden urges, forces you to deal with your emotions honestly, though. Probably not the politicians, though. But anyway, you can isolate yourself. You can analyze an issue, dig deep, and make internal corrections. So it is a time of looking deeply within. People are not interested in superficial interactions at this time. You want to avoid any emotional entanglements. Don't let someone coerce you or make a commitment that only works for them. Because there's a lot of manipulation that goes on at these times. A lot of sexual tension. The subtle undercurrents between us suddenly get very powerful. With the Moon in Cancer, we're more sensitive now than we were a week ago with the Moon square Pluto in Aries. So you really got to be gentle with yourself with the Moon in Cancer. You want to avoid harsh interactions with people. It could happen. The opposition does bring powerful meetings. That's what it's designed to do. And with Pluto, they could be overwhelming. So you may feel a desire to lash out at others, or others might try to abuse you. The whole idea is just to be aware that everyone is in need of more gentle handling now with the Moon in Cancer. And then later in the evening, the Moon square Venus. Again, more tough aspects for the day. Interactions with others are good so long as they're lighthearted and gentle. Nothing loud or unsettling. Everything needs to be very Venus, very quiet and balanced, harmonious. You may feel very sentimental, thinking about the past, and tendency to overindulge in rich foods. And then one more Moon square on Monday. This time Moon square Uranus has us restless, crave excitement or something new, interested in the unusual. And we do have a heightened awareness of our social condition during the Moon square Uranus. And sometimes that makes us defiant or very independent and rebellious for no reasons. It's not a good time for social interactions. And then we've got avoid, of course, and that'll continue for the rest of the day until just past midnight. So actually, it's once again a short void of course. And then moving into the 27th, we've got a huge day with 3 planetary aspects and the 3rd day in a row of highly charged political aspects. So get ready for this one. So we'll start just after midnight when the moon enters Leo. Somewhere more playful and dramatic for the next couple of days. You know, Leo rules romance and recreation, and we gain emotional benefits through those activities now. Also a good time to spend with your kids. And in the early hours of the morning, so it will be in effect on Monday evening as well, Sun conjunct Mercury while retrograde at 4 degrees of, actually probably about 5 degrees of Sagittarius. Aspect occurs several times each year. It's good communication skills, although tend to be focused on your own ideas, your own conscious ideas. Creative aspect, good for communication, writing, doing anything with your hands, doing two things at once. Good for making transactions and short trips. You may feel like starting a new project, but with Mercury retrograde, we're still rethinking things for a while. And again, it's a political aspect along with the Mercury conjunct Jupiter, but it's generally a more positive one. Get us talking about politics, thinking about judicial matters, because it's in Sagittarius. And all of the stuff that patriots have been waiting for with regards to the unsealing of the indictments, the FISA memos and stuff, probably be in the news today, because there's going to be so much talk, so much need to express all that information, desire to get more information. Lots of information will be coming out very quickly. It'll be hard to digest because Sagittarius is in abundance as well. So it's going to be a major part of the rethinking process during the retrograde period, because we need to get a lot more information in order to figure out what's going on politically. And all this stuff coming out now is going to give us that information that we need. And the general tone of the aspects today, all of them, including the moon aspects, is rather positive. So it may very well be a big relief for a lot of people. They may be very happy. You know, they may really show the positive side of Jupiter, the jovial, optimistic side, the feeling that justice has been served and that a noble principle has been upheld. And you can see the moon in Leo is in a perfect position by trining these three planets in Sagittarius. So we start in the morning with the moon trine Jupiter. Brings a very pleasant disposition and desire for an emotional connection to others. Fire signs. It's very creative, very inspiring. All of these moon trines are going to get you out of your seat and get you working, because this is like, you know, it's a very creative aspect, those fire signs. So we'll get a lot of emotional displays, very generous, exuberant, loud, gregarious, bring people together, make, you know, draw a crowd, and good for social occasions if that's what you're doing. And there's just going to be a lot of activity from all of these moon trines today. And continuing with the moon trine Mercury, mentally active and very creative in the morning. Conscious, thoughtful processes flow smoothly. So, you know, a lot of discussion, able to share your feelings with everyone about what's going on. A lot of stuff is going to get written now. It's a good time for business, lots of transactions. And then we've got probably the most fiery, inspirational moon aspect happening all month long. This is just fantastic. So we've got the moon in Leo trining the sun in Sagittarius. So that's going to give us tons of creative energies. Like I'm saying, the most powerful moon aspect all month long because of those fire signs. Lots of confidence. Benefits come from taking the lead in your life and doing whatever you want to do. Won't allow yourself to be repressed by anyone. You could accomplish almost anything with this aspect. Too bad it only lasts a couple of hours. But it will move you to make a change for the better in your life. Leo's to Sagittarius, moving from fixed fire to mutable fire. That's a smooth transition from one fire sign to the next, from one state of being to the next. It implies movement. We get unstuck. Energy flows. This releases existing potential within you. The trine from Leo to Sagittarius is wanting to take your creative energy, Leo, and bring it above the horizon and have it adapt, mutable fire, to the outer world. So you take your talents and you bring them forth. So there's going to be this tremendous outflowing of creative talent as potential gets released this morning. It's going to be very positive. You know, I noticed back on August 20th of this year, we had a very similar fire trine, only the signs were reversed. It was when the sun was in Leo and we had the moon in Sagittarius that day. And I noticed this really strong reaction to the energy within me. It was a spontaneous, creative moment that got me off my butt and doing something really positive. So I was sure to make a note of it, and I went over and I looked. I said, what's going on here? And I went, wow, this is a really special trine because it's in fire signs. And now it's coming around again at this absolutely perfect moment. I just can't believe how lucky we're getting here. The strong yang energy is very active, and this occurrence will be much different than the moon trine sun we had earlier this cycle, because that was in water signs. The sun was still in Scorpio and moon in Pisces. So this is in fire signs. It's very different. We'll feel compelled to get up and move on to better circumstances, move on to the next level, feel connected to higher cosmic forces, which mandate that no good talent goes to waste. All the more significant right after the sun conjunct Jupiter. So with the sun going into Jupiter, and this being right at the time of starting this new cycle, and then we get these trines coming up shortly thereafter. I would say a very righteous moon aspect that adds a lot of power to an already incredible day. And righteous, by that I mean the right use of your creative energy. So that's my big pep talk for Tuesday the 27th. But it gets even better. I would say everyone's going to be caught up in a flaming inferno of political deadwood. I'm hoping. That's just a big hope. I call that wishful thinking, because it just seems like now is the moment. We've got a grand trine with Chiron involved. That just makes it all the more interesting. And there's more aspects to come. Mars sextile Saturn. Okay, so that one will be 7 degrees of Pisces to 7 degrees of Capricorn. So the restless energy of Mars in Pisces slows down for this one, focuses on something meant to last. Saturn builds things meant to last. So today you're inspired to direct your life towards useful ends. That's this aspect in a nutshell. It's a wonderful aspect. Buying things, or on this day, those things tend to last longer. Things that you start now, they just tend to last a lot longer, because whatever you're doing, you're inspired to make it last a long time. We're self-disciplined, not frivolous, willing to work hard without approval or oversight, but can work with others or alone or necessary. You really need to feel like you're accomplishing something useful under this aspect, or you could get frustrated. You know, Mars, if it's not fulfilled, it gets angry. It's a good aspect for making art or working with earth or stone material, especially. Building any sort of building or construction would be a good outlet for this energy. Physical things, because Capricorn, but also something that's going to be a spiritual in nature because of the Pisces. And just remember, whatever you do under this influence is sure to last a long time. And like I said, that goes for purchases made today. They'll be reliable and long-lasting. And the Capricorn to Pisces sextile is always helpful towards others who genuinely deserve it. Wow, who could have imagined such a grounding aspect to happen in the midst of this huge day? Once again, thank the universe for that. On a political level, what does this mean? Authority will have the strength to accomplish something with long-lasting implications. Authority will have the military working with them in harmony. Authority will be able to take the lead and have Mars qualities and be dominated. It sounds just like the perfect setup for Trump, who needs to rely on the military and an ability to lead at this time in order to back him up, in order to prevent the political upheaval that will probably occur when the FISA documents are released and maybe people start getting indicted. And then we're going to have Mercury conjunct Jupiter in the afternoon. Okay, so this one will be 4 degrees of Sagittarius. Lots of big ideas, inspirational, ability to connect the dots and see the big picture. Talkative, a lot of use of the hands. Artistic, playful, colorful, philosophical, expanded vocabulary. You'll want to use more words than you usually do. And sometimes you want to make the words that you're saying bigger right in the middle of them. It comes out really funny sometimes. The mind is filled with an abundance of facts and information ready to be shared at a moment's notice with whoever will listen to you. It's like they just open up the jar and it all comes out. Open-minded, forgiving, not critical, desire to move on to better circumstances. Any work that requires attention to detail will seem boring and is not recommended because you'll probably miss the details. Broad-minded, interested in a variety of subjects, but not interested in the details, just the general facts. The general warning is to avoid saying anything you later regret. Goes double for today. I mean, it couldn't get any bigger. With this aspect in the excitement of the moment, sometimes Jupiter avoids anything limiting, even listening to the good sense that you have learned in the past. Overly exuberant, loud, excitable, blunt, and of course, poor financial judgment. Likely a lot of transactions today, people tempted to spend more than you intend, and typically Mercury retrograde periods will be amplified. So whatever inner reflection you feel you need to do, you'll do more of that. So this is the second pass. The first pass was on October the 29th at 27 degrees Scorpio. So this one's happening at 4 degrees of Sag. And the third pass is going to be December the 21st at the solstice at 9 degrees of Sagittarius. So the issue that we are all dealing with now is righteous use of our words, the right use. You know, do you tell the truth? Are you noble? Are you principled when you speak? Or do you have a tendency to embellish the facts? Do you share what you know with others, or do you keep it to yourself? That's another issue. Jupiter needs to share. It's abundance. It needs to flow. You need to share your information, not keep it to yourself. All of these issues surrounding Mercury and Jupiter, they're all going to be amplified at this time. Make them seem bigger than they really are so that you can see them. And that's the reason why they get so big. So this is the third day in a row of political aspects. Just like the Sun conjunct Jupiter, this too could produce a big announcement. Because after all, Mercury is the voice. So another big announcement regarding judicial actions, along with lots of bombastic and professorial speeches. Bombastic because it's just like Jupiter can be so big and loud and overwhelming, like a bomb, and professorial because it rules higher education, always thinks it knows better than everybody else. So we'll hear a lot of that side of it come out as well. But I'm sure not from anybody listening to my videos. It all seems to be a really perfect setup for what us patriots have been waiting for. All right. So that's my pep talk for the 27th. And then we got the 28th. No aspects. Well, isn't that nice? Maybe that'll be a day to relax. No moon or planetary aspects on the 28th. Okay, moving to the 29th, just after midnight, we've got the moon in Leo, sextile Venus in Libra. Oh, how wonderful. Very romantic. That'll be late Thursday evening, just after midnight. Or excuse me, that should be late Wednesday evening. Let me change that. Okay, so late Wednesday night is very romantic. Very early Thursday morning. Okay, and then we've got the moon trine Uranus. Middle of the night, very liberating aspect. Moods change quickly to help us out of a stagnant pattern. We're more ambitious. We're more self-reliant and imaginative. You display your unique qualities, looking for changes in the home. And I tend to find them to just be more exciting moments, especially if you like surprises and more enlightened thinking. We're more psychic during this time as well. Just generally know what other people are thinking, more in touch with the emotional needs of other people. Focusing your creative energy on a specific talent or task yields great results. It's just like the sextile, but now it's in fire signs. It's very active, more of that fiery stuff. And then we've got a void, of course. A short one begins until the moon enters Virgo, still in the middle of the night. So we're more skillful for the next couple of days, better at analytical tasks, keeping appointments, mundane tasks, more fastidious and discriminating, displaying good judgment. And it is the time each month when we attend to our health regime. And the same is true whenever the moon enters your sixth house, whatever sign that is in your chart. You'll always want to check in and see if you're taking your vitamins and, all that stuff. If you ate too much when the moon is in Cancer, when the moon gets into Virgo, you'll get back on your diet again. That kind of a thing. Then at the start of the day on Thursday, Moon square Mercury, Virgo to Sagittarius. Emotions get mixed with intellect. Hard to be rational during these times. It's not a good time to make decisions. Just a lot. Virgo to Sagittarius, lots of corrections, lots of details. Mind gets bogged down on useless details in pursuit of perfection. Don't let perfect get in the way of very good. And remember, Mercury retrograde turns the energy inward, so criticism gets turned inward as well. So be gentle on yourself and avoid self-deprecation. Not appreciating yourself enough. Just know when to let it go. And then later in the morning, Moon square Jupiter. Very expansive aspect, brings in abundance of emotional energy. The mood is generally good and folks are warm and generous, but sometimes come off as smug or self-righteous. Others may be put off by excessive displays like virtue signaling. Trying comes from Earth. Skillful use of your time leads to gains in reputation and career opportunities. And then just 1 minute later, we've got the last quarter moon. Moon in Virgo square Sun in Sagittarius. The usual crisis for fulfillment as we reach the high point of this month's growth cycle. It can be a very successful time or a very self-critical time, which we sometimes take out on others. Again, it's Virgo to Sagittarius. A lot of corrections. Mind gets bogged down on relentless pursuit of perfection. Say that 10 times fast. You can get very critical. Don't let perfect get in the way of very good. Know when to just let it go. Okay, so that's all for the aspects this week. And in case you were wondering why the long moon descriptions, it's because we have the new moon in Scorpio, and that equals longer moon descriptions. We got to dig deep and give lots of psychological insight. I hope you're enjoying it. Maybe if you have planets in Scorpio, I'm sure you understand. And meditation videos are coming soon by the first of the year. Working on those now. Hopefully with the new moon report almost done, I'll have a lot more time to dedicate to that. This channel is truly a labor of love for me. And thank you for sharing your time with me, because it does mean a lot. Please leave a comment, or you can send me a private email at mobilestar7@yahoo.com. And that's all for this week. Once again, thanks for viewing, liking, and sharing my video. Many blessings, and have a great day.